Hey guys, it is Sam here with NCG. Today we're going to have a quick look at the Unbroken Bonds set list. Obviously a lot of people have been out and about at pre-releases today. A number of our players, myself, Darren and Carl that I know of, have all been out at pre-releases at various points today around the UK. All had loads of fun, all had some really neat pulls. Check out the Facebook story. You can see stuff on there that we've been pulling, I think the cards that we've picked up today. But without further ado, we're just going to get on with the set list. Big thanks to Limitless TCG, who have got this all up on their page. And yeah, it's just a really good resource. So go check those guys out as well if you haven't already. But yeah, we're going to get straight into it. We're just going to have a look down the list really. So first of all, we come to the Pheromosa and Buzzwole Tag-Team Gx. It's 260 HP Tag Team Basic. First attack is the jet punch that we're all used to anyway, from the original Buzzwole card, the fighting type Buzzwole card. And then it also has the Elegant Soul attack for 190 damage. And then the GX attack on this one's really interesting. We have this Beast Game that does 50 damage, but if your opponent's Pokemon get knocked out by damage from this attack, take an additional prize card. If this Pokemon has 7 extra energy attached to it, take 3 additional prize cards instead. So obviously this could really ramp up how many prize cards you're taking in a turn. We have ways to get the 7 extra energy on, things like Beast Rings that we can use to really sort of ramp up the energy attachments. Not sure how achievable that will be realistically. I guess we'll wait and see. Obviously this deck saw quite a lot of success in Japan. I think that was before the fire sets or fire decks were big over there, so the fire set hadn't released at the time, and so I think it'll be a bit slower in the sort of American and European metas, where the a lot of the fire support comes out in this set in Unbroken Bonds. So it remains to be seen how we get on with that. Obviously we've then got the Butterfree line. Triple charge attack on the Butterfree is also quite interesting. Search your deck for 3 basic energy cards, attach them to a Pokemon any way you like. Stage 2 though, so a bit of an issue with that there. We then go down to the Vileplume line. Another interesting ability on the Vileplume. Once during your turn, flip a coin. If heads, choose either Poison, Burn, Sleep or Confusion, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now affected by the chosen condition. Really interesting point someone made earlier today, that this could sort of be the bench sitter in the Vileplume Walls deck, so you still have little bits of damage output and you potentially have outs to taking some prize cards and things there if you would want to. The next card I'm going to highlight is this Venomoth Gx, the Secret Ninja, doing 110 damage. If you play Koga's Trap from your hand this turn, this attack does 90 more damage. If you have played Janine from your hand this turn, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon from basic Pokemon. Interesting abilities again, interesting effects, sorry. But whether it will see that much play, Koga's Trap and Janine we will come on to later on. Both interesting trainer cards themselves, but I think particularly this Janine effect will be easy to sort of guzzle around and things like that, and with escape ropes currently in the format. So I think it'll be interesting whether this actually sees much play. Again, the weak to fire, big problem in the current metagame. Baby Blacephalon and Reshi Charizard are going to be huge decks in the next few months, so again it might just auto lose to all the fire decks anyway. Interesting GX move on here. Shuffle your hand, draw 10 cards. We saw this as a similar attack on the Drampa GX that came in our Guardians Rising set, I believe it was. Then we're on to the Victory Bell line again, stage 2, but more big poison things. Then we go down Tangler Tangrowth, Grubbin. Then we're on to this Kartana here. Another effect similar to the Baby Buzzwole that we've all come to know and love. 10 damage. If you have exactly 4 prize cards remaining, does 120 more damage. So obviously Baby Buzz is your opponent's prize cards, this one is affected by your own prize cards, so it's an interesting attack there. On the Katana, probably find its way into some sort of Zapdos box or some sort of box somewhere, just to be able to hit on that prey on the grass typing, but we'll see how that one gets on. I think that'll be a card to watch. And then we come to this one that I've already mentioned, Reshiram and Charizard Tag-Team Gx. Huge card coming up, I think. Done really well in Japan. It's been very sought after today in the pre-releases. 270 HP basic tag team Pokemon, and some very strong attacks as well. Outrage for 30 damage, plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So we've seen the Outrage attack before, but we have never seen it on something with 270 HP. So if someone dares hit into this without taking a one-hit KO, very scary coming back into their opponent's turn. Flare Strike, dealing 230 damage. This is probably going to be a big Kiawe target to power this big guy up with the 230 damage attack, but can't use Flare Strike next turn. And then the GX move, Double Blaze, does 200 damage. If this Pokemon has 3 extra fire energy attached to it, the attack does 100 more damage, and the attack's damage is not affected by effects on your opponent's Pokemon. So potentially hitting for 300 damage there, which pretty much clears out all the Tag Team GXs and everything else that we currently have around in the format. So yeah, certainly a GX move to really watch there. Then we go on to the Arcanine line. Sorry. Again, another interesting art. I really like the artwork on this card. Got the little Pokemon Center in the background, and just looks very dynamic and very powerful Arcanine, particularly on the artwork. Darmanitan, card we haven't seen for a little while, or Pokemon we haven't seen on a card for a little while. Again, find Wildfire, search your deck for 3 fire energy, reveal them, put them in your hand. It's okay, but stage 1 and whether it's actually going to be that effective. Volcania next. So we're on to the. This was one of the promos in the pre-release kits today. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to pick one up, but very nice card indeed. Flare Starter, interesting attack. Search your deck for a fire energy, attach it to one of your Pokemon. However, if this is your first turn, search your deck for 3 fire energy instead, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. Either way, shuffle your deck, of course. But yeah, I think if you can get this card off early, you can start getting the fire energies on the board, ready for the big Reshiram Charizard Tag-Team Gx, or the big Blacephalon that we'll come on to a little bit later on. But really interesting attack there, first attack. And then Feverish Explosion, 50 damage. If you have 4 fire energy or more in play, attack does 6 more damage. So it does have a little bit of a damage buff on that attack as well there. Then we come on to the Incineroar line, Litten, Torracat and Incineroar. The strong yell ability, all your Pokemon attacks do 30 more damage against your opponent's active Pokemon. Really strong ability, really nice damage buff, effectively a free choice band, but for anything you want. But again, stage 2 problems. I know it's kind of ran right a little bit, the Incineroars at pre-releases today. I know people played them and were doing very well with them, but whether it will see much play once we get into the meta game, again, different story. Then we go on to this Salazzle card. I really like this Salazzle. Been interested in it since it got announced. Roast Reveal ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a fire energy from your hand, draw 3 cards. If that sounds familiar, that's because it should be. That is the effect that you get with the Heat Factory Prism Star card. So yeah, very neat to have that as an ability, because you can potentially use it 3-4 times in the turn. Use it across the ability and the Prism Star, the Heat Factory. So definitely a very interesting ability there. Great for fire decks that need the draw support. Then we're on to this baby Blacephalon. Obviously the Blacephalon GX has been a big guy in the format for the last sort of 4 to 6 months, with Lost Thunder and Team Up as well. Has this Blazer attack first. Flip one of your face down prize cards face up. If it's a fire energy, the attack does 50 more damage. The prize card then stays face up. So interesting little 1 energy base attack there. Again, playing around with your prize cards, similar to the Blacephalon GX with the Burst GX attack. But then this attack we're really interested in is this Flame Ball Circus, which I think translated as Fireball Circus on the English cards. Which just sounds cool anyway. But discard as many fire energy cards from your hand as you like. Attack does 50 damage for each card you discarded that way. So with things like the Fiery Flint, Fire Crystal and Welder, this attack can really start hitting and packing a big punch. We can dig a load of energy cards, get them down on the board, and then we can start getting our energy back into our hand from the discard pile and out of our deck, and we can really start piling on a lot of pressure. Also really interesting to note, this thing is 120 HP, so it is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be the new single prize deck to watch after the success of Zapdos for the last sort of 3 months, because of course Zapdos is going to have to use up 2 electric power just to be able to chase this thing down, so it won't be able to use choice bands, things like that. It is going to rely on electric powers, so by the time they've spent all 4 electric powers just taking 2 of these guys down, they're then relying on things like Tapu Koko to come in, the GX, to keep applying pressure, and then once they start benching their GXs, we can start chasing this prize trade. Of course, if they're playing the Ultra Beast version, they're going to have things like Baby Buzzwole that can also help keep the prize trade even. But I think eventually they're going to have to start benching GXs, and it's really going to throw it in our favour. So that's definitely a card to watch. I think predicted here, I think will be the best deck in format. So we'll see how that gets on. It's certainly one I'm keeping a close eye on. It's probably the first thing I'm going to be testing once I can get hold of the cards. This Blastoise GX I think looks fantastic. So it's 240 HP stage 2, and I'm glad we finally got a Blastoise GX, because we've seen Venusaur on the tag team, and we've seen Charizards, of course. So really glad that Blastoise has finally got a bit of a GX showing. The ability, Solid Shell, we take 30 less damage from attacks, which is pretty sound straight away. Already got a choice helmet built in. And then this Rocket Splash for 2 water energy. So shuffle as many water energy attached to your Pokemon into your deck as you like. The attack does 6 damage times the number of cards shuffled in your deck this way. So this has a lot of synergy with the Blastoise we had in the other set, in Team Up set, that came in the starter decks and things like that. It has a lot of synergy there that we can get some energies down onto the board, and then we can start hitting for some big 60 times damage. Again, being a stage 2, whether it sees a lot of play in what is a fairly quick format at the moment, I'm not so sure, but I think it's certainly a card to watch for the future. If the format does start to slow down and stage 2s come available again, I think this is certainly one to watch. Then we get into our Poliwag line. Poliwag, Poliwhirl, Poliwrath. Reasonable card again. Quite a nice artwork on this. I think it's very cartoony, but I like the ripple effect in the water and things, so nice little artwork on there. Might pick one up just for the binder, just to look at. Then we got our Tentacruels, our Slowpoke into Slowbro, and then we come on to this card that's seen quite a lot of play in Japan, this Dugong. Obviously with all the fire support, decks have had to adapt to start hitting the weaknesses, try and take some of those big Tag Team GX Rescue Charizard, and also beating the Blacephalon deck and trading well. So Dugong has been seen paired quite a lot with Zoroark. So we have the first attack, obviously DCE does 60 damage, which we run DCE in Zoroark anyway, so that's not a problem. And then this dual Blizzard attack, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Attack does 6 damage to your opponent's Pokemon, so you can knock out a Blacephalon that's in the active, and also throw some damage onto a bench Pokemon. Just try and keep up on the prize trade, really, because that, as I said, that Blacephalon is going to be very powerful, very strong. So I think this will see quite a lot of play, paired with Zoroark, maybe in some other builds as well. But I think particularly Zoroark is probably going to be the way to go for the Dugong, mainly just because they share the energy costs, and triple accelerated energy is also in this set, so that dual Blizzard is going to be a single attachment attack as well, which is pretty neat. Grabby and Kingler line, saw a bit of that pre-release today again, same with the Goldeen and Seaking. Saw a bit of this this was in some of the pre-release packs, so this was around a little bit today. We've got a Kyurem back. Search your deck for a water energy, attach it to this Pokemon, shuffle your deck, and then discard 2 water energy from this Pokemon. Your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed. So the auto paralysis is nice for 110 damage, but pretty hefty attack cost, so whether needing 3 energy. Obviously we have things like Aqua Patch and Naganadel Quagsire decks might have this in a little bit, Again, auto paralysis is quite nice, but whether it sees a lot of play will be interesting. We've got the Froakie and Frogadiers here. I think the Greninja's further down as just a dark type in this set, so we'll see that a little bit later on. And then, oh my goodness, just look at this Pikachu. This is just the cutest little boy. Oh, I think up there with one of my favourite artworks for Pikachu's, and certainly in this set. But just a cute little winky boy. Then we've got the Raichu, never give up attack. Quite interesting. Only use this attack if you have 3 or more less prize cards than your opponent. Attach all the lightning energy cards from your discard pile to Pokemon in any way you like. Quite interesting, but it's going to be quite niche because you have to be 3 prizes down, which at that point you might already be losing the game anyway. So might see play, but very unlikely. Stunfisk, quite an interesting little card. Always good to have some colourless lightning types. Obviously the Raging Thunder, interesting, and would also be able to one-shot a Zapdos along with a Electric Power, so maybe something that people think about there. And the Shock Trap for a DCE, attack does 30 damage for each of your Pokemon with any damage counters on them again, something that might be quite useful against Zapdos decks that maybe won't be one-shotting, so you can just throw this into the active and start hitting some damage on those Zapdoses, those pesky Zapdoses. Then we come on to what is one of the chase cards of the set, I think. Dene Gx, look at that cute little guy. 160 HP GX Pokemon, and this is going to be the next big sort of bench sitting support Pokemon. After sort of we've had Tapu Lele for a while, that's going to go with the rotation being announced recently. So we've now got this Dede Charge ability. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, during your turn you may discard your hand and draw 6 cards. A little bit of a throwback to the old Shaman EX, very sort of similar ability, but we discard our hand first. But you can only use 1 Dede Charge per turn, which I think is perfect really, because this card could really get overplayed, and people could really start just hammering down with this card and drawing through their deck quickly. Take the mick a little bit. So I think it's very good, this little extra line on the end, just using 1 per turn. Then Static Shock just does 50 on Electro turn, similar to the old Shaman again, with the, I think it was Sky Attack, something like that. But your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralysed, and you put this Pokemon all cards attached to it in your hand. So again, very simple attacks. Not quite as useful as an attacker as Tapu Lele was with the Energy Drive attack, but a little bit of a throwback again to the old Shaman with the bringing it back to your hand effect on there. Then we have this Charge Bug. This Charge Bug is really interesting. So the ability Battery, if this card is in your hand, you can attach it as a special energy to one of your Vikavolt or Vikavolt GX in play. It does not count as your attachment for turn, and it provides 2 lightning energy. So maybe seeing a bit of play here and there. Maybe it makes Vikavolt decks slightly viable, but I wouldn't think you'd see it outside of sort of challenges and cups really. It's not going to be one of those decks that's taking down big regionals. Then you've got the Vikavolt there, Stealth Body. If there's a Stadium in play, you have no weakness on this guy, so usually the fighting weakness on there, we can remove that just by playing Stadiums. And then this Lightning Strike for 120 damage, discard all lightning energy from this Pokemon. If you do, the attack does 100 more damage, but again, really hefty attack cost. Very likely have to be paired with the Sun and Moon Vikavolt, but of course that is rotating, so very interesting deck, but whether it sees play is another question. Zeraora, quite interesting. I might play this as a bit of a silly one at some point. Discharge 50 times all the lightning energy attached that you discard from this Pokemon. So again, easy to ramp up damage with the Magnezone, with the Magnetic Circuit Magnezones. Like I say, I might try it for a league challenge or something, but I think it's going to be a very sort of low played niche deck. Then we come on to our next tag team of the set, this Alolan Muck deck. So Muck Muck Gx. Bad Poison, your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned. Chuck 8 damage counters onto Pokemon for poison. And the Poison Cling for 120. If your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, heal 100 damage from this Pokemon. Then we get into this Sticky Mix GX with no attack cost. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now poisoned and paralysed. If it has 4 extra energy, we can put 15 damage counters between turns for poison, which is huge. This is the most damage we've seen for a buffed poison. So yeah, it's just very, very interesting. I think a few stall decks, walls decks type decks have been playing this in Japan a little bit, particularly for the Sticky Mix GX. That's just incredibly strong. So again, it might see a little bit of play here and there. Then we get down to the Ekans, Arbok lines, Zubat, Golbat, Crobat, down to these Ghastlies, and onto the Haunter. Gengar. Shadow Pain on the Gengar is quite an interesting ability. Play this card from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon. Put 6 damage counters on your opponent's GX or EX in any way you like. Maybe good for finishing off games, but again, stage 2. Then we got our Hypno line, we've got our Coffin, and we've got our Weezing. Weezing's a good one just to touch on for spread decks. Similar to the old Flygon, but the Detention Gas ability, while it's your active Pokemon, put 1 damage counter on all your opponent's basic Pokemon between turns. So like I said, good for spread decks, maybe seen paired with Coco, or with something like the Hit and Run Hitmonchan deck, or maybe Strafe Coco or something like that. But just finding a way that we can throw this guy up into the active between turns, and just start spreading some damage around might be cool. Mewtwo, nice little ability on this guy. When you play this card from your hand during turn, put a support card from your discard pile on top of your deck. A little bit like a soft versus Seeker, but as an ability. And it goes on top of our deck, so it doesn't come directly to hand, so it's kind of a thinking 1 step ahead card, 1 turn ahead kind of card. Then we've got the Mew with the Bench Barrier ability. So Bench Barrier is back. Prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. So that might trip up spread a little bit here and there. But yeah, Bench Barrier is now back. And we go on to the Mismagius. So the Mismagius has this mysterious message ability. Once you're in your turn, knock the Pokemon out. Then draw cards until you have 7 in your hand. So similar to Dead NA, this is a way that we can start just tearing through our deck a little bit, if we want to run hot and kind of get some combos off early. I think the knockout is quite an interesting thing. We give our opponents a prize card, but we might get a good hand advantage and a good board state advantage from that. So I think it's a nice payoff. But again, I think it'll see a lot of play in the next few months. And then we've got the Meow Sticks, one of the Cat-A-Day attacks here, which pairs with the Persian that we'll come on to later on, which means we attack for free if we can get the Persian out. Quite interesting. Then we've got this Marshadow with the Reset Hole. So once during your turn, when this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard a Stadium in play, then discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it. So a little bit like a buffed Field Blower, but only for Stadiums. And I do believe we can target the Prison Star Stadiums with this as well. So now we don't necessarily have to run counter Stadiums in our deck. We can just play the Marshadow, if I'm correct, of course. But yeah, really interesting ability on there. I know it saw a little bit of play in Japan. Then we got into this Marshadow on Machamp GX. Good fighting type, 270 HP, basic tag team. We've got this revenge attack that we've sort of seen before. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out by damage from an attack during your opponent's last turn, this attack does 90 more damage, so we're buffing up to 120 total. We've then got the 100 split impact for 160 damage just for fighting colourless. And then for the same cost on the GX attack, we've got Hero Peak for 200 damage. If it has an extra energy, this Pokemon will be knocked out by damage from an attack. It survives with 10 HP. So a nice little attack there that we can sort of hit for a big 200, and then we can sort of make sure we still get a second attack out of this with the 100 split impact or whatever on the following turn, which again, quite a nice interesting effect. Then we get on to a Sandslash line. Again, these were in the pre-release kit, so I've seen quite a bit of this guy today. But we flip coins, so kind of meh. Diglett, nice little ability with the secret manoeuvring. If you discard with the effect of Giovanni's Banishment, which I think was translated to Giovanni's Exile in the English set. But we discard our top card of our opponent's deck, which is pretty nice. and we can play a few of these and try and recycle them to keep Giovanni's exiling. I'll come on to that one a little bit later. Then we get into the Geodude, Graveler, Golem, Cubone and Marowak. Then we get onto this Rhydon that I was talking about here. So this little card with sort of Giovanni there in the background. Anyway, which I think is, again, just really nice artwork. I think there's a lot of super nice artworks in this set. And we've got this dirty work for a DCE. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. However, if you played Giovanni's Exile during this turn, you can discard 4 more cards, which I think is just quite a busted card if you can get it to work. I'm sure somebody with a lot more brains than I will find a way to make this work at some point. And so yeah, with the Diglets and the Giovannis, you can potentially be discarding up to 7 of your opponent's cards per turn, which I think if you get this off 2 or 3 times, then you're just going to win the game because their resources will be dry. The Whoopie Quagsire line is really interesting. Straight into Quaganag, I think. Quagsire Naganadel with this one. Water costs, but we hit 120 damage for 3 energy with this Surf attack on a fighting type, so that's just a sort of instant KO on Zoroark. It's instant KO on Pikachu and Zekrom tag team. So I think this just drops straight into the Naganadel Quagsire decks super easily. We're on to the Gliscor, so quite a bit of the Gligar today at pre-release, which is interesting. Again, another card, if we just come back to this, another card that we get a little bit of extra from playing the Janine. We do 90 more damage if we play Janine in the turn. Janine is going to be a card I'll come on to just a little bit later. Then we've got the baby cards back. Yay, babies! So we've got this Mischievous Kick. Once during your turn, you may flip a coin. If heads, put 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Your turn ends either way. These babies all have kind of this just one ability. So we'll see a few more of those as a Clefairy and a Happiny as we go further through. So we'll see a few more of those little abilities later on. The Hitmontop with this finish combo. This is one a few people have been waiting for. If one of your Hitmonlee use special combo during your last turn, this attack does 60 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. So we have the Hitmonchan with the hit and run, then the Hitmonlee with the special combo, and then this is the finish combo card to kind of end it all, which is super interesting. Might see a little bit of playing expanded with the Hitmonchan Wobbuffet Walls deck. So we'll keep an eye on that card as well. Riolu, of course, the Lucario is a little bit later on. It's a metal type in the set. Landorus, nice interesting card. Good to see Landorus coming back as well. It's been a long time since we last saw a Landorus card. We then got the Crabominables. Stack Attacker, another one of these Ultra Beasts that has a prize card effect. So the ability, if your opponent has 3 or less prize cards, this Pokemon's maximum HP is 200, so that gives us an extra 80 HP. So again, super interesting card. Then we're on to this Greninja Zoroark GX, Tag-Team Gx. It's 250 HP basic, and the first attack is a Dark Pulse throwback to the old Darkrai EX. Attack does 30 more damage for each Dark Energy in play. I nearly got run over by this at pre-release day. Luckily managed to take it down. But yeah, another really nice GX card, and the Night Unison GX, but 2 Dark Energy, Dark type EX GX from your discard pile onto your bench. If it has an extra energy, attach 2 energy cards from your discard pile to both of those Pokemon. So that's definitely a way to set up this Dark Pulse attack for some big damage. Then we get onto the Murkrow Honchkrow. So this is one that has been talked about a lot as a strong card going into this next format. Leader of the Night, if this Pokemon is your active Pokemon, your opponent can't play Stadiums, Special Energy, or Tool cards from their hands. So it is Chaos Wheel as an ability, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So this is just a real big ability to have put on a card, and of course, because it is Duskstone usable, we can evolve this up on our turn 1, and yeah, we'll just make it really tough on our opponents. And the Unfair GX, look at your opponent's hand and discard 2 cards you find there. So again, if you get this up on the second turn of the game, you get the Dust Stone, you've got your ability set, and then you can sort of ruin your opponent's day even more. A few more cards here that are just kind of fillers, I guess. Such a big set. I think there's 214 cards in this set before we get into the secret rares. Got Crocodile back, which is quite cool. Again, another nice artwork. I think it's quite a dynamic looking artwork. Greninja I talked about earlier. Again, nice little shadowy artwork with the Charizard, I think that is, just in the background, which kind of maybe a little bit of a hint towards what's coming up in the movie, maybe in Detective Pikachu. But we have this bring down attack, knock out one of the Pokemon with the fewest remaining HP in play. Of course, it does affect you or your opponent. Again, and a miss slash attack for 70, but the damage isn't affected by weakness resistant or other effects. So nice little Greninja there. Probably won't see play one more for the collector, I think. Then we get onto this next Tag-Team Gx, this Lucario Malm. So really strong GX attack on this. 260 HP Tag-Team Gx. But the full Metal Wall Gx. Till the end of the game, all your metal Pokemon take 30 less damage from your opponent's attacks. If this Pokemon has 1 extra energy attached to it, discard all the energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So yeah, really devastating effect on this. We take 30 less damage, but we also get to bin off all the energy from our opponent's active Pokemon. So I think this will be a nice little wall deck, especially with a lot of the sort of cards that we've got, like Metal Goggles and Frying Pan, that just reduce damage further or remove weaknesses. So I think a nice little walls deck with this. Also, we get a tool card in this. Can't think of the name off the top of my head, but we've got a tool card in our Unbroken Bonds set that I'll come on to a little bit later on, that reduces 70 damage altogether from attacks for 1 turn. Then we discard it. So yeah, we've got the potential to be sort of minus 100 just in 1 turn off this, because we get the GX off and then we can attach the tool. And a little Alolan Diglett and an Alolan Dugtrio. Nice little hair wall ability, so all your metal Pokemon you play take 10 less damage from attacks. So again, this might come in handy if we want to reduce our damage even more, reduce the damage we're taking. So might see a little bit of play there. Then we've got on to our Aggron lines. Then we've got this Lucario. This was in one of the pre-release kits today, so a little bit of play on this. If you attach a tool during this turn, you attack with 70 more damage. So that was nice. Then we've got a Genesect. It's been a while since we saw a Genesect that looked as cool as this. And we've had the Shining Genesect and things like that, and the GX. But again, I think the artwork just looks really nice. And the ability high speed flying shape. If your opponent has Pokemon EX and GX in play, it has no retreat cost. So interesting little thing there. You could use it as a pivot or something, but relies on your opponent. Then we get into this Melmetal. So quite a few people wondering what a Melmetal is. Maybe you haven't played Pokemon Go and things, you might not know too much about this Pokemon. But a nice little ability on here again for this sort of walls deck I'm talking about. Once during your turn, discard a metal Pokemon from your hand, then heal 100 damage from this Pokemon. So again, we can sort of heal off damage with that. Then we on to Gardevoir and Sylveon. I know this is quite popular in Japan. Quite a few people were hoping to pick up this card pre-release today. I don't think we actually saw one today, which was a bit of a shame. But Fairy Song for a colourless energy, search deck for 2 Fairy energy cards, attach them to your bench Pokemon anywhere you like, so we can start powering ourselves up. Keldeo Storm, move as many energy cards attached to any of your Pokemon to other Pokemon anywhere you like, so we hit for 150 damage and we can sort of move energy around a little bit. Then we get onto this Miracle Magic GX. If this Pokemon has 3 extra Fairy energy, opponent shuffles their hand into their deck. That could be absolutely devastating if you hit for 200 damage or 230 with the choice bands. Take a big knockout and then force your opponent to play off their top deck. That could be a devastating endgame. We've then got the Cleffa with this another baby Pokemon with one of these little flip effect abilities. which is quite nice. We can draw to 6 cards. We can shuffle our hand into our deck and draw to 6 cards if we can flip our heads. A little bit like the old Eek Cleffer, not quite as strong, but we draw to 6, and that's nice. Then we get into the Clefables: Jigglypuff, Wigglytuff, Togepi, Togetic, Togekiss. Fairy Banquet on the ability on the Togekiss. We can heal 30 damage from all Fairy Pokemon. A little bit like a Rough Seas, but Fairy types as an ability. Then we got into this Whimsicott GX. A friend of mine pulled a couple of these today. It looks quite nice, full art particularly. But a nice little ability, Fluffy Cotton. If this Pokemon will be damaged by attack, flip a coin. If heads, prevent that damage. So we've got a coin flip, but we've also got that damage prevention, which is super interesting. And then we've got this Energy Blow, a little bit like a watered down version of Gardevoir. Attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon. So again, super interesting effect, so that we can sort of hype up the damage on this guy. So again, see how this gets played. And then we've got the Toybox GX, which is a bit of throwback to the Algorithm GX. Search your deck for 5 cards, put them in your hand in a format of Let Loose. Whether this will be all that effective or whether we just wait for the Toybox GX and then slap down our Marshadow just to disrupt a little bit, will certainly be a possibility. Then we've got our Spritzy Aromatisse, and then we're into our colourless Pokemon. So we've got the Rattata, Raticate, Spearow, Fearow, Meowth. We've got this Persian with this cat meeting. All attacks of your Pokemon with a cat a day attack have no energy cost. So things like the Esper that we referred to before. We can remove the energy costs of those, so we can start even the attack that isn't cat a day. We can start attacking for good numbers there. Persian GX in this set, 200 HP stage 1. Seen a lot of play over in Japan, particularly for this ability. If one of your Pokemon EX or GX was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, search your deck for 2 cards, put them in your hand, shuffle your deck. You can only use 1 Catwalk in a turn. So this becomes a little bit like the Twins or the other card slipped my mind. But good comeback card if you get hit with a knockout. Search your deck for cards you need to respond to that knockout during your turn. This Vengeance, that does 10 plus 20 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile. Can't add more than 180 damage in this way. But if we can add the 180 to the 10 base, throw on a Choice Band, we can be hitting for 220 for 3 colourless. So again, with the triple accelerated energy, this becomes a 1 energy attachment attack. Then we have this Slashback GX, 150, switch with one of your bench Pokemon, similar to the GX attack on the old Glitterspot GX. Then we're on to our Dodrio, Lickitung, Licky, Porygon. A few Porygons, Porygon 2 and Porygon Z. Again, quite like the artwork on this. But this is one people have talked about with this crazy code ability. As often as you like during your turn, attach special energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So this, we can just keep flooding our board with special energies, things like Rainbow Energies and all the mix of unit energies. So people are looking to play this as a bit of a tag team box. Get a couple of these on board, and then we can throw whichever required tag team we want up onto the board, and we can start hitting particular weaknesses and things like that, or playing for specific effects of the GX attacks. So another really interesting card that comes out of this set, and I think we'll see a little bit of play in some sort of toolbox, tag team toolbox kind of decks. Then we've got a nice little Snorlax, cute little guy with some Pikachus and a Torchic. Again, I'm a really big fan of the artwork in this set, just really nice things. Purugly. Then we've got another one of our babies, we've got Happiny. Playhouse Heal. Once you're in your turn, flip a coin. If heads, heal 60 damage from one of your Pokemon. Either way your turn ends. So a nice little ability there, maybe for walls deck and stall decks and things, just to heal off damage. Then we come on to the Celesteela GX. I think this is possibly the last GX in set, in terms of set number. But that nice ability, Force Canceller. If this is your active Pokemon, prevent all damage and effects done by your opponent's GX attacks at any other Pokemon in play. So stops your opponents using their GX attacks really, which is super interesting. Power Cyclone, who hits for 110 for 3 colourless energy, and then we've got this Discovery GX. Put all your prize cards into your hand. It does not count as taking prize cards, but put the same number of cards from the top of your deck as your new prize cards. So nice little prize card manipulation. Then we come on to our tools, items, and supporter cards. We've got this Beastbringer. If you have exactly 6 prizes remaining, the Ultra Beast, this card is attached. He knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon EX or GX. Draw an extra prize card. Again, probably won't see a lot of play. You probably need 4 off to hit it on your first turn while you've still got, or early game while you've got 6 prizes remaining. Then it just becomes a dead card for the rest of the game. So probably won't see a lot of play. Frost Ice Axe. Top 3 cards of your opponent. Look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck. Choose to shuffle them back into your opponent's deck, and then put the other card on top. Quite nice if you want to manipulate your opponent's top deck in things like stall decks. Then we've got this Devolution Spray. I'm not going to touch on that too much. Duststone. This is the card I referred to before. We can choose one of our Mischievous, Murkrow, Doublade, or Lampent. Search your deck for a card which evolves, and we can evolve them up that turn. We can do it on our first turn or the turn that the basic was put into play. So this is how we get into our Honchkrows and our Mismagiuses very quickly to start digging through our deck, or just to lock out our opponent with that Chaos Wheel-esque ability. Dust Island just keeps Pokemon poisoned if they switch away. Electromagnetic Radar is a nice, interesting one. Discard 2 cards from your hand to play the card. Search your deck for 2 Lightning Pokemon EX and GX. Reveal them, put them into your hand. Probably quite interesting for the Pikachu and Friends deck, Thunder Buddies kind of builds, where we want to be digging out Pikaroms and Zeraora GX. We finally got the Energy Spinner. It's not Fidget Spinner, but it is the Energy Spinner. Couple of Fairy Charms that shut off abilities and lightning types. So those are interesting. We've then got this Flame Crystal. Put 3 Fire Energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. That helps us power up our baby Blacephalon. Start hitting big damage there. Once we've binned off discarded all the energy, we can get them all back the turn later. Giovanni's Banishment, Giovanni's Exile, if you like. In the English translation, discard 2 of your bench Pokemon with no damage counters on them, and all cards attached to them. So this is how we run the Diglett and Rhydon deck I spoke about earlier. Then we get onto this super interesting card. I think this is one of the most interesting cards in the set. We've got this Green Search. You can only play it if you have no abilities in play, but search your deck for 2 trainer cards, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Super broken if we're on B-Swing turns and things with Blacephalon. And the payoff is that you can't play Pokemon with abilities. But I think this will lead to a lot of sort of quad-based builds. We saw Buzzwole Pheromosa in Japan. We also saw the Baby Buzzwole deck and other similar things. So I think this will see a lot of play, and as I say, will lead to some nice quad decks. Then we get onto these Janine and Koga's Trap that we talked about before. Pair well or sync up with the Venomoth Gx. The Janine, look at the top 4 cards of your deck, choose 2, put them into your hand. Similar to the Underground Expedition, but we look at our top decks, not our bottom. So whether that sees play in partnership with the Venomoth will be interesting. And then Koga's Trap, your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned and confused. In pre-release it was okay. Outside of pre-release, once we get into the main formats, I'm not sure it will be that useful. Lieutenant Surge Strategy is going to be a big one. A lot of people upset by this card, I know. But you can only play this card if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. Place 3 supporter cards this turn, including this one, so it's 2 extra really. But it could lead to a lot of sort of silly combinations with Guzman and Cynthia in the same turn, or for stall decks we could see things like Plumeria, then Lusamine to get that Plumeria back. So we'll see how this card goes on. But I just think it's nuts. It's going to be stupid good, I feel. We've got a Fighting Dojo, where we can start hitting for more damage. We buff our fighting types, other than Ultra Beasts. Then this is the tool card I talked about before, this Metal Core Barrier. I forgot the name earlier, but yeah, so this is that one. at the end, Metal Pokemon on this card attached, you take 70 less damage from your opponent's attacks, but it has to discard at the end of the turn, so a little bit like the old Bursting Bloom card we discard at the end of the turns. We've then got this Mullane card. Didn't really see a lot of that today. You have to discard 2 Metal Energy from your hand, play this card, shuffle a trainer card from your discard pile into your deck. So again, it's okay. Majority of the time you're only going to watch supporters back against though, and then Power Pad's just stronger anyway. Gets to, and it's an item. We then get Pokegear back. Pokegear 3.0 is back in the format. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose a supporter, reveal it, put it in your hand. With Lele going, this is going to be super clutch, I think, for digging, for Guzmas and things like that you might need to get out of a tough situation, or Cynthia's to get out of a tough situation. So with Lele going, this just means we can sort of find supporter cards with a little bit more consistency. Obviously not as consistently and as Lele, and not always the exact one we want, but it's just quite a nice little card. I think decks will play this. Unmanned Power Plant seems fairly strong. Will this finally be the death of Zoroark, Lycanroc type builds? Both players Pokemon EX and GX in play have no ability. Will this get seen over? Will this see play over Shrine of Punishment and things like that? I'm not so sure. Maybe alongside, but really strong effect on there. We've then got this Reds challenge, which is kind of computer search. Discard 2, search for a card. Samsonite, draw 2 cards. Both active Pokemon same type, choose 2 or more. We've then got this Spy Hood, surprise box, put a card from your opponent's discard pile into their hand. Then we've got this super strong Welder, attach 2 fire energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and then we can draw 3 cards. So this is how we get things like the Baby Blacephalon powered up. We can a little bit like the old Blacksmith, but we can go from hand instead of this card pile. But then we get to draw cards, guys. Drawing cards can never ever be a bad thing, right? So yeah, super strong Welder, fire supporter there. And then finally we're on to this triple acceleration energy. It can only be attached to an evolved Pokemon. At the end of the turn, this card is attached, we discard it, and this card provides 3 colourless energy. So yeah, just a super strong card. It will be around with double colourless energy for a little while, so Zoroark's going to really play on these as well. But yeah, just a really strong card, and it opens up a few possibilities. Really like the fact it can only be attached to evolved Pokemon, just limits it a little bit, and then we have to discard it at the end of the turn, so we can't just like DC, we can't just carry it through multiple turns. But again, just another super interesting card. So that was it, guys. That was kind of our quick look through the whole set list. We've gone through everything there. We've touched on sort of the main cards that are of note. But again, just a really big thanks to Limitless, who have had this up on their site now for a few days. But yeah, just go and check those guys out, and come and check us out. Check out our Facebook page. Visit all our sponsors, and up next is Berlin for most of us, guys. So if you see us there, don't forget to come and say hi. Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye bye.